Welcome to the Consultants Training Institute's Emerging Leaders Series. I am Brien Jones, and I am pleased to have with our guest, or as our guest for this installment, Janae Castell, who is a correspondent with the Around the Valuation World in 90 Minutes webzine program, and also a recipient of our 40 Under 40 Rising Stars campaign that we launched in 2014. Janae, welcome.
It's great to be here.
Pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
As part of our series. Congratulations on being a recipient of the 40 Under 40 award.
Thank you. Excited. It's an honor.
What did it feel like when you got that email that you were nominated and then you got the award?
Well, it obviously felt good to be recognized. It felt good to have people that are kind of cheering me on. I had a few people contact me and tell me that they were going to nominate me, and that really, even just that sinking in was a lot of encouragement. So then getting the email that I was a nominee, and I was kind of like, yay, and then getting a nominee that I was selected out of, quite a few nominees was, I'm very honored.
Yeah. Well, you've been very actively involved in the organization. As I indicated, you've been a correspondent with the Around the Valuation World program for quite a while. And personally, I know that you're working on some pretty significant projects with our business valuation certification. But before we get into all the stuff that you're doing, tell us about yourself, where you went to college, what you studied, and why did you make the choice to get into this profession?
Okay. Well, I grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I fell in love with Texas Christian University, and I went down there for college, Fort Worth, Texas. Go Frogs. And I studied finance, and I studied Spanish, and I took a little bit of German, so kind of an international flair, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought maybe personal finance, financial planning, or maybe being on a corporate financial team. I really wasn't entirely sure what was out there either. I'd never heard of business valuation, but I knew of someone that worked at a CPA firm and did taxes and wanted me to come apply. And so I thought, well, I didn't hate my tax classes, so I could maybe do that. And he was telling me about the business valuations. They did some valuation in their practice as well, and thought that they might need some help doing it. And I thought, well, that really sounds interesting. That sounds up my alley. So sure, I'll give it a shot. And I was there for a little while doing taxes. And then I started in with evaluations and got more and more involved with that as people turned over. And really then it was me working on the practice and kind of figuring my way out through business valuation and all the standards and what things meant and the terminology and all the reports. And came to the NACVA training in Boston and got my certification and loved the job and continued working through it and learning more and more. That's basically my path. Kind of fell into it, but grew to love it.
Do you recall the first valuation project that you were assigned to, and what was it?
Let's see. I remember getting a piece of evaluation, and I had to do the economics section. Okay. And I cannot remember the client, but I did basically the economic analysis.
Okay. Real exciting stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's an important part of the valuation process. So if someone were looking at this video right now, or this interview with you, who was not familiar with the valuation process, why is that economic section important?
Well, the economics are the foundation for how investors are going to react. So if you're looking, we have a really good example in our recent history with the economic downturn, and we can kind of see how investor behavior changes for particular investments based on macroeconomics, regional economics, micro and macroeconomics, and that basically lays the foundation for how their risk tolerance is going to be, what their expectations are going to be, because we're looking at how they're going to anticipate cash flows and the risks to a business, and the economics, all of that analysis just flows into that. It flows into investor habits and expectations.
There are so many aspects to valuation. One of the reasons why we founded the Around the Valuation World program was to give the profession the opportunity to take advantage of your team members who are out there covering and researching case law, theory, applications, methodologies, conferences, publications, journals, and presenting that in a 90-minute time period. So, you know, it makes their research efforts hopefully easier.
Yes.
To your practice, what are some of the areas that you're specializing in?
Well, I specialize in generalizing.
Okay.
No, we have a lot of manufacturing in Tulsa. The history of Tulsa brings a lot of oil and gas, so we have a lot of that. Actually, Tulsa is growing a lot in its startup community,
Okay.
and I'm very excited to be involved in that community and that growth in Tulsa. I've been involved with some of the Kauffman Foundation communities that are going on and some of the business incubators and really working on that. So kind of getting into the startup world, the venture capital world, which is a very different cat to skin. But as far as my traditional valuation work, that's mostly learning about a lot of things. I have not specialized just in healthcare or one particular industry, which has its pros and cons. It can be good to really get to know an industry intimately, and I think you have to have a certain level of comfort and knowledge with an industry and the environment that a company is operating in. But at the same time, sometimes it's nice to have a more varied background so you can see things a little bit bigger picture and what's going on in not only one industry but another industry. And I think sometimes maybe if you get used to doing one thing one way, you may not see a change coming on or something that you would have caught if you had maybe a little bit broader base. So there's really, I think you can make an argument for being generalist. I think you can make an argument for being specialized, and probably both good, and knowing people, having connections with people that are more broadly knowledgeable, and people that are very specific. If you've got a project that you're working on, is a good thing, so that network maybe kind of fills in those gaps. You can't be all things to all people.
Right. Well, you also have been pursuing a certification in financial forensics, you know, which is a unique aspect of valuation-related concepts. Have you determined yet, or have you thought much about where you might like to specialize, or you just kind of getting a feel for a lot of different areas? And it's what's your thoughts on that?
I actually, with the financial forensics, that was a really great program to go and augment my valuation skills. I really didn't anticipate it having so much relevance, but it did. I don't anticipate specializing as far into financial forensics as I have in business valuation. I have a really good contact that I know in Tulsa, and she does a lot of the financial forensics, so things that are very high level. I'll refer out to her, but having that knowledge and being able to do that work is good, and it's good to have that background and know maybe if there's something interesting going on with the financials that you're given for evaluation. And there are a lot of not specifically valuation issues that come up that the financial forensics will really help with. And that's not to say that I'm not going to do any financial forensics just for the sake of financial forensics, but again, I think there's such a broad body of knowledge for valuation, and that's really that's more my passion. So I don't know, I'm specialized staying in business valuation, but maybe some in healthcare, and maybe continue to specialize in startup early stage companies. And I do like the goodwill. So I have done a lot of work on separating personal and corporate goodwill, and that's a very interesting topic, and that's another topic that's not 100% valuation. It kind of bleeds into other disciplines and specialties, or maybe skill sets or different understandings than you get just from valuation. So maybe those three things.
In your firm, What are some of the sources that you all use to keep you current and updated on all the various things that are out there to keep track of?
Well, that's difficult, and that's one of the things that I guess made me gravitate towards around the valuation world, was that I identified with that problem of keeping up with so many things. I was getting so many emails, daily and weekly and monthly for all these publications,
Right.
and keeping up with what's happening in the courts and what's happening as far as best practices, and what Professor Demoteran is saying, and what this newsletter is coming out with. And there are a lot of good resources, and there's such an immense volume of knowledge to kind of put your arms around, that it's difficult to stay current, and things are very rapidly changing and evolving. I mean, just as the markets change, our viewpoints and our strategies have to change, in addition to just improving and building on what we're doing. So I stay up with Demoteran. I use the Quick Read Buzz. I actually have received the AICPA publication. I subscribe to Chris Mercer's publication, and there are a Value Line, the Value Examiner. I try and keep up with that, and sometimes I read one thing more than another, and I just can't humanly keep up with reading everything. But that's where the Around the Valuation World comes in, and my fellow correspondents, they'll be reporting on something, and whenever I know that they're reporting on a subject, I'm like, okay, I have to go read that article and figure everything out, and kind of do my own research.
Right.
I can have someone kind of give that to me in a digestible format, and then where I need to follow up, I can follow up, but I get that update, and it just condenses it, so that's been really nice.
So you also were recently elected to NACVA's Valuation Credentialing Board. I mean, you're a busy lady. I mean, you're a mom, you work full-time, you're on the Around the Valuation World team, you just got elected to a board, and you're helping to update a significant portion of the CVA curriculum. How do you do all of that? And another question related to that is, what do you do to help keep yourself balanced with your family and on all of those duties that you've got going on?
That is a very valid question, and people ask me that a lot, and I kind of want to respond. I'm like, okay, well, why do you assume that like you say, I do it all, like I succeed at it all the time? I mean, I don't necessarily, I do what I can. I swing for the fences and hope for the best, and I really... I'm one of those people that I do better when I'm busy and have a lot of things keeping me moving. I perform better that way. I will say I tried at one point. My husband is less of a busy person, and he was always wanting me to be less busy. So I tried it for a while, and I was not involved in much, and I was miserable. And I got, maybe I get 80% done of what I really feel like I need to get done, and I had 75% less stuff to do, and I still only got 80% of what I needed to get done. I don't know, something with how I operate, having that something that I don't know,
that stimulation,
that thrill.
Well, it breaks up the monotony too, and similarly, I think keeping busy, challenges you, and it keeps you current, and it puts you a little ahead of the curve, because you're striving to contribute and to learn and share knowledge, and I think that's always a good thing.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of have to give myself a little bit of a break and realize I'm not perfect,
Right.
and then just
You're not perfect.
do what I can.
You're not perfect. You're pretty close. No, but. So in your spare time, in your free time, when you're not working, and what kinds of things do you enjoy doing?
Oh my goodness. Well, I have 2 small children, 2 of my babies, and they're awesome. They're the world. We, as a family, like to go to baseball games. We have a minor league team in Tulsa, and so we have some really awesome seats, and we like to go soak up the game. And my son loves the mascot. He loves Hornsby, and he loves baseball. He was barely walking, and saw a TV picture with a baseball game, and it wasn't even the whole baseball game, it was just like a catcher and a batter, I think, just showed, the batter's box and basically, and he barely walking just toddles around and is like, baseball, baseball.
Really?
he loves it. He loves going to the games. And so we go there. Tulsa has a lot of kind of fun concerts and different like arts and culture things to go to. So I love going to that when I can. I'm involved in the Tulsa community, like I was saying, the startup community and young professionals groups and the chamber. So again, in the personal life, real busy, but maybe busy isn't a good word. Maybe stimulated, because I don't know. Maybe busy, hectic isn't a good thing.
Sure,
but like I've got a few kind of things that I am concentrated in, and maybe I kind of build up. I'm very involved in valuation and things, but I'm not. Don't get spread.
Actually, that's a good way to put it. Then busy is really stimulated. Like it goes back to what we were just talking about. You're challenging yourself and pushing yourself just a little bit farther.
Yeah.
I think. Can I borrow that?
Sure.
That's a better way to put it. What are your sons' names? Your kids' names?
Well, my son is William.
Okay.
His name is William Wallace Castell, and my daughter is Charlotte Janae, and we call her Charlie. So
nice.
They're about a year apart. They're a riot. They're a handful, but it's really awesome to watch them grow.
For someone coming into this profession, a young professional, what advice would you give to them?
I would probably tell them to get connected and rely on some other people that have been doing it for a while. I think whenever I came in, I was needing the processes and the best practices and what to do, and I felt like I didn't have anyone to rely on, and so I kind of was creating the wheel all myself, and that's good in some ways. It gives you some satisfaction, but I think if I had maybe some more mentors or some people to reach out to, if I had really taken advantage of the contacts that I'd made, with that training center, which I did some. I did reach out to the teachers of that some, but I think, if I'd really thought it was okay to not know everything,
right,
then that would have helped. And that actually, maybe that's the biggest thing, just not feeling like you have to know everything. This field is difficult.
Sure.
It's very difficult.
Very technical,
and it's frustrating because you don't necessarily have the answer. And there are some people that just, it's hard for them to really let go of that and not having that black and white, and this is what it is. I mean, we're trying to capture the value of something. And I mean, if you really step back and think of that, that's almost impossible.
Right.
I mean, we have to come up with something that's reasonable. We have to get there in a reasonable fashion, but you don't necessarily have the answer.
Right.
And two professionals may disagree, and probably will. It'd be a little bit weird if they didn't. So, just don't be frustrated by not knowing everything. Kind of embrace that humility of just having to figure it out and doing what you can to be reasonable and think rationally and think like an investor. But there's not a value of something, and you're projecting, and you don't have a crystal ball. So it's okay to reach out and find out what other people. That's maybe the easiest, the best way, experience and reaching out to others to find out, their perspective and what they've been doing, what they've seen.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that you have done so far to contribute to this profession, and you're barely getting started and already making quite a significant mark, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Your volunteerism as well as the things you're doing. What would be for the other 40 under 40 folks, what would be one of the goals you'd hope to see from that?
For the individuals, for the group
for you guys as a
collectively?
group, collectively, yeah. Any thoughts about that at all?
Oh, I have thoughts. I don't know. I think that this group of incoming valuation forensics and M&A professionals could really do a lot to help the public with understanding of our profession, and to really shape the view that, the image. Because I think, business valuation, especially, I can mostly speak to business valuation. It's a pretty nascent profession, and I think that there are misunderstandings a lot, based on maybe a little bit less rules and regulation that we've had before. I mean, really, the accrediting bodies have done a lot to kind of bring some order to the chaos that was there, but I think there's still some work to be done to kind of teach the world about what we do in valuation and what it is and what it isn't. So maybe this generation can be shapers, formers of
of a much clearer public perception
yes.
of what it is you all do.
That
We were
is a great
talking
way to
about
say it.
that earlier too, about how young the profession of business valuation is, but not even quite maybe 25 years as a formalized profession. And you're right, there's so much more public education and awareness that's needed. And that's a really good goal. We're hoping to get you all involved in some great projects and initiatives. And again, proud of you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And thank you for spending some time with us,
Absolutely.
Janae. Yeah, appreciate
Thanks.
it. And we'll see you next time.